I'm a 17-year-old girl who competes in both basketball and track at a high level. Like so many female athletes, I have poured my heart into becoming the best athlete I can be. In this day and age, opportunities for girls like me are being stripped away. The biological dominance of transgender women is undeniable. We simply cannot compete against them. I was the league champion in the women's 800-meter race. If I had raced in the men's division, I would have finished dead last. Another example, my girls' high school basketball team is currently ranked 3rd in the state. Our boys' team is ranked 39th in the state. With that being said, when we scrimmage the C team boys' team in practice, we lose. Not because of skill, but rather their physical dominance. I have also witnessed firsthand a man win the state title in the women's 400-meter race and how the other girls' hearts were broken knowing that should have been their place. After winning, the man just said, "Just another day in the office, nothing special for me." Just let that sink in. It was nothing special for him. But imagine how special it would have been for the girl who worked her butt off only to be beat by a man in a woman's race. And hormone therapy does not level the playing field whatsoever. Height, limb length, wingspan, hand and foot size, bone density, joint surface area, frame size, shoulder to hip ratio, spinal structure, heart size, lung volume capacity, airway size, oxygen diffusion surface area, blood delivery capacity, cardiac output, VO2 max, muscle grip strength, tendon thickness and stiffness, ligament size, explosive power, neuromuscular coordination, reaction time, jumping, sprinting, and throwing mechanics. Not to mention, transgender women do not experience menstrual cycles and therefore do not face recurring fluctuations that affect female athletes' performance and injury risks. That's just a few of the differences even after hormone therapy. It sounds silly, but this is basic knowledge. Women's sports did not come to be as simple as men's sports did. For generations, women were excluded from competition, denied resources, and brainwashed into believing their bodies would never be capable of success in athletics. The feminist movement fought hard for nearly a century so that women could be given equal rights, not against men, but against each other. That fight led to women finally earning their own divisions, scholarships, records, and championships. It gave women the respect they deserve and a voice, most importantly. Now, society tells young girls that no matter how hard they work, biological girls can still take their place. No matter how much we say we don't want boys playing against us, their voices don't matter. Because it's all in the name of equality, isn't it? It's for the sake of equality that a girl must be okay with competing against a boy. How is any of when someone speaks up about it, they are without a second thought instantly labeled as transphobic and bigoted? This has nothing to do with hate, but preserving my rights. Women's sports exist so girls like me can be given equality. This is about fairness and women's rights. I've said this before, but don't say you stand for empowering young women if your rules won't protect my opportunities. Thank you.
People born with male chromosomes are going to be stronger and faster than equally trained females. With that, it takes away from so many scholarships and opportunities for women. When a girl has been training her whole life to play in college, and then a man who wants to play girls' sports enters the race and wants the same opportunity as her, it's not fair for the girl to have to go up against her instead of just her own gender. But not just for scholarships, but for spots on teams. When a coach has to pick between a girl or a guy in a sport where the guy dominates, it's a hard choice. On top of that, it's a security issue. Girls and guys are biologically composed different, so there's no doubt that there's an element of fear when a young female has to go against a biological male. This element of fear isn't irrelevant. It comes from the differences that could be involved by injury during sport or in locker rooms in between sports. There have been many cases reported of sexual harassment in locker rooms after sports and before sports, and injury during games. Above all, it's anti-feminist. So many people in here supports women's rights. But by allowing biological males into women's sports, you are directly degrading women. By invading their sports and spaces, you are taking away from their opportunities. There are so many women who have fought for their own sports and leagues, and now that we have those opportunities, they are being taken away from us. To protect women, you have to keep males out of our sports. It's anti-feminist and makes women believe that their opportunities, safeties, and sports are irrelevant. Thank you.
Thank you for Senator Republican for giving this initiative of opportunity to allow the public to express their opinions. This is an initiative that I care very deeply. Um, so a recent United Nations study revealed that transgender athletes have won nearly 900 medals in women's competitions. We all know girls train as hard as boys. Taking even one medal away from a girl athlete is one too many. This recent UN study claims more than 600 biological female athletes has lost at least 890 medals to transgender competitors. This defeat occurred in over 400 competitions in 29 sports. Several years ago, I witnessed a girl's opportunity was taken away by a boy. It was a divisional competition. Top 6 went to the national. I was volunteering at the check-in. I saw a boy with mustache checked into the girls category. I was confused. However, he was listed under girls category. I checked him in. Later, I was confirmed he was a boy identified as a girl. He later won the 6th place and took a girls sport at the national, and that was a junior level competition. So you know the impact on college admission. That was an opportunity taken away from a girl, and that incident made a huge impact on me. I started to care about this topic. I started to research, the difference between biological, boy and the girl, and I follow this topic, very closely. So I'm very grateful for this bill's sponsors, for everyone signing this, for this initiative sponsors, and for everyone signing this petition made it happen. Under the Initiative 26-638, boys are not banned from participation in sports. This initiative only prohibits biological boys from competing with or against girls in girls' sports. Trans is an option. Girls' sports is a Title VI protected right. Initiative 26-638 simply leverages the existing physical examination process to verify biological sex. It does not subject girls to additional genital exams like its opponents claimed. I urge Washington legislature and the public support Initiative 26-638 and protect girls' sports in Washington. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak today. My name is Jessica Xie, and I'm here today just as a concerned parent and a citizen to oppose biological male to competing in female sports category. We almost never see biological females identifying as men entering men's sports and taking sports from male athletes. The reason is obvious. Biological males generally have major natural advantage in strength, speed, and power that hormone therapy does not fully remove. What we're seeing more and more is biological male entering women's competitions, often winning titles, medals, scholarships, college admissions, and other opportunities that should belong to female athletes. This is not fair competition. It is boys choosing an easier path where they can dominate and gain rewards they could not achieve against other boys. By allowing this, we are teaching young men that it is acceptable to take shortcuts, to cheat the system, and to advance at the expense of girls rather than earning success through hard work and fair play against peers. This sets a terrible example. Instead of modeling perseverance and respect, we're telling boys that they can bypass real challenge by stepping into the girls' category for easy wins and benefits. This is not about denying transgender individuals opportunities. They can excel, they can succeed in many other areas, but protecting women's sports means protecting fairness for girls and teaching boys integrity, not exploitation. Therefore, I oppose boys in girls' sports. Thank you.
I am currently a sophomore at Eastmont High School, and I'm a student athlete who does track, cross country, and I played basketball up until this year. I'm here today because fairness and safety in girls' sports matters to me, and because I have personally experienced what happens when fairness and safety is taken away. In the 8th grade, I qualified for the Kashmir Junior Olympics in track and field. Only the top 2 athletes from each school advanced. That season, I had dislocated my kneecap playing basketball and spent months in painful rehab to earn that spot. When I arrived at the Kashmir Junior Olympics, I had no idea I'd be racing against a biological male until after when we were standing on the podium. And I was in 2nd place, and every girl after me was pushed down 1 spot while the male stood in 1st place. When my friends and I spoke up, an adult on his team told us that if we were going to complain, we would need to go somewhere else to do so. In that moment, it felt like everything we had worked for, every early morning, every injury, every sacrifice no longer mattered. When my family and I respectfully raised concerns about fairness and safety for girls, we never expected the backlash that would follow. I have been called hateful, transphobic, a bigot, and many other things. Adults have called me stupid. Adults have told my parents that they should be ashamed of me. I've been told that I am a sore loser, that I should train harder, or just not suck. My family has been threatened with lawsuits. We've lost friendships, and my safety has been threatened several times. All while being told that I am the hateful one. I have even been told that by speaking up, I would be responsible if that transgender athlete decided to take their life. That is an unbearable weight to place on anyone, especially a 16-year-old. People tell me that this isn't a big deal, that there aren't many transgender athletes, and they say it's just high school sports. But since 8th grade, I have competed against 4 biological males that I know of. 4 times I have watched girls lose podium spots, rankings, and confidence. And this is not just about high school sports. For me, for my teammates, and for many female athletes across Washington State, this is about our dreams. We train for hours, we push through pain, exhaustion, and injuries. We sacrifice because we are taught that hard work and discipline matter. That if we give our best, we can achieve our goals. That belief is what is being taken away from us. I continue to speak out because I know how it feels to have something you earn taken away, and I am not alone. Girls across Washington have reached out to me, girls who are hurt, discouraged, and afraid to speak up publicly. They've told me about losing awards, rankings, and opportunities. They've told me that if they protest, even peacefully, they are threatened with suspension by their schools or coaches. As female athletes, we feel like our voices don't matter. Our fairness and safety are being dismissed by the very adults who are supposed to protect us. This is not about hate, and this is not about discrimination. This is about protecting girls physically, emotionally, and competitively. There are real differences between boys and girls, and acknowledging that reality is not hate. In closing, I ask those who have the power to decide our future to protect us. You have the power to protect fairness, you have the power to protect girls' safety, and you have the power to show us that our voices matter too. Your decision sends a message to every female athlete in Washington that our dreams matter, our voices matter, and our opportunities matter. Thank you.
I have been a varsity athlete in 3 sports, including softball, basketball, and track. I appear before you to discuss what I have experienced as a result of what I feel is the blatant disregard for female rights and safety. When I was 15 years old, I was playing for my girls' basketball team at Tumwater High School. During that season, an 18-year-old man was allowed to not only compete against my team, but also be present in my locker room. This made me deeply uncomfortable and concerned for my safety, so I reported these concerns to school administrators, trusting that they would protect me and my teammates. Nothing was done to help me or ensure that I felt safe. Instead, I was met with quite the opposite. After I referred to the 18-year-old man as a man, I was investigated by the WIAA and Tumwater School District for harassment and bullying. Instead of being protected as a minor student athlete, I became the one under scrutiny. To this day, my peers yell at me in the hallways, call me names using profanity and derogatory language, and try to intimidate me for the stance that I have taken. It is clear that my school does not see these actions as bullying or harassment, as they have shown no intention of providing support or assistance when this takes place. I have worked extremely hard to be a student athlete. I have dedicated myself to my sport and even fought my way back from a severe ankle injury the previous season. Basketball is something I earned the right to participate in safely. There should never be a man in girls' sports or locker rooms. I should be protected as a female athlete as well as all the other female athletes. I deserve the right to feel safe in my sport and in my locker rooms and bathrooms designated for biological girls. I am asking for protection, not just for myself, but for other girls like me. Female athletes deserve safety, privacy, and fairness. Letting biological men participate in girls' sports or use our private spaces in any capacity directly threatens our safety and therefore our rights. I would also like to include that sports physicals are a very normal part of any child's experience being an athlete. They are between a child, their parent, and a licensed doctor. There are lies being spread about these physicals trying to hide the fact that it is about health, safety, and readiness to play. Nothing more. Spreading lies does not protect kids. It scares parents and distracts from the real issue, which is men competing in girls' sports. Please listen to my plead for protection and help me, as well as other girls and women, feel safe in our competition, in our locker rooms, and in our bathrooms. Thank you.
Coach at Meade High School in Spokane, Washington. This is my 43rd year. I'm starting in 3 weeks and 5 days for my 43rd year of track and also for cross country. Several years ago, I started noticing this was happening. Before that, I heard about it elsewhere, and I thought, comes to Spokane, I'm going to take care of it, and I didn't see it. And finally, a parent sent me a picture of a boy in a girls' race. And I spoke about it at a coaches meeting right after that, and I had a younger coach suggest to me that I was old and out of it and didn't know really what I was doing because transgenders, there's not really very many of them. We went back and forth for a while, and I finally got her to say, because there aren't very many of them, if it only affected one girl, that girl was expendable. And that's fighting words for me. And so I have been in on this pretty hard since then. I'm still coaching. I take risks. Luckily, Meade is very supportive. I have, today earlier, we watched Patty Murray on a video. It was so awesome. Oh, man. She spoke about how she missed Title IX and she watched her kids go through and it was so much better. I rolled in on Title IX. I came through in high school in like 74. We still wore boys' hand-me-down uniforms. I don't know how that worked, but I just rolled through. I had no idea. And what I'm seeing now is the opposite of Patty. Patty watched it get better for her kids. I'm watching it get worse for the kids. My girls are suffering. I hear about transgender having mental health issues, and this is against them. This started for me at our track one day, and I watched one of my girls who was going to college, who had everything going for her, and she got beat by a transgender boy in the last 300 meters or so, and she was crushed. She was not the same the rest of the season. She had a mental health issue in college. She ended up not running. She's just now getting back on track, and I can track that as the beginning of what was happening. And then had another girl, she did run in college, but these are just, I worry about the mental health for the girls. They think we are helping them. They think all of these adults here are fighting for them, and it's not happening. I listen to these other girls having to fight those battles, and I grew up kind of a street kid. I'd be in there probably I wouldn't be as classy as those guys are. But this other gal, okay, I'm done. This other gal, she ended up having mental health issues, staying up all night. Her parents had to talk her off the cliff, and she ran college for a while, and she's not anymore. So it has long-lasting effects. I'd love to get back to common sense.
I'm a political reporter and commentator in Washington State independently. I cover Washington politics and West Coast politics, certainly in my capacity as a Washingtonian and as a voter. And as someone with common sense, I support the Let's Go Washington initiatives. I've never been very athletic. I don't have kids, but I've gotten to know a lot of athletes, and I've gotten to know a lot of parents. And one of the most important things I've been able to do with my platform is to extend it to them, to have a voice in something so important. And so I do appreciate you guys allowing them to have a voice in this way as well. I want to limit my remarks to the war of information that's unfolding around these initiatives right now in Washington State. Let's say something clearly. The truth is the truth. There aren't different versions of the truth. There's just the truth. The media, the last time I checked, has an obligation to report the truth, not to uncritically parrot one party's remarks, not to use captured language that confuses the narrative, not to sidestep difficult topics for fear of offending their viewers or their listeners. There are a few truths in this debate that we need to make clear once and for all. Boys are not girls. Those two labels cannot and should never be used interchangeably. To do so as members of the media is to make a conscious decision every time you do it that you're going to lie to the people who trust you to report the truth. It's also been shocking to watch so many blatant lies go unchecked by the media during this debate. For example, the repeated and easily disproven lie that banning boys from girls' sports would lead to invasive genital exams. That's not true, and it's a weird thing to say. This was a narrative concocted by the Washington State Teachers Union as their campaign consultants sought to formulate talking points that would scare voters away from something as common sense as protecting girls' sports. Few in the media, except for Como News, they get a little exception here, have chosen to fact check that claim despite it being quite easy to do so. The text of the initiative, which I would encourage everyone to read for themselves, requires no such thing. Instead, it utilizes the annual well exams and sports physicals that athletes are already getting to determine biological sex. As you know, the WIAA already requires that student athletes get a physical every other year, and it's quite easy to prove biological sex through that physical. I'll end by saying it's the media's job to call out lies when they happen. They owe it to voters to help them make a decision based on truth, not lies. They also should be telling two sides of a story. We've seen heroic stories about transgender athletes defying obstacles, and very few stories about the brave girls who lost those races and lost those games and are now standing up for themselves. Thank you so much.
I am here today not as an activist or as a politician, but as a mom who has watched our daughter be directly affected by policies that allow boys to compete in girls' sports and access their private spaces. I am here because this issue is no longer theoretical for our family. It is personal, and it has consequences. Annalie is a dedicated student and an athlete. She has worked hard She shows up early. She trains when no one is watching. Sports have been a place where she has learned discipline, resilience, teamwork, and confidence. Qualities that every parent hopes their child will gain. Like so many girls, athletics taught her how to push through discomfort, how to lose with grace, and how to believe in herself. But when Annalie was required to compete against a male athlete in girls' sports, something changed. She didn't speak out immediately. She was confused, she was hurt by the situation, and she questioned it. And she questioned herself. She wondered if she was the problem. That alone reflects her character. She didn't lash out, she didn't accuse, she tried to make sense of something that was deeply wrong. When she eventually found the courage to say that the situation was unfair, she was met with anger. My daughter has been publicly called a sore loser, whiny, and I won't sugarcoat this. She has been repeatedly called a whore and a bitch. These words were directed at a teenage girl, and on top of that, she has received threats for her life. These were not attempts to engage with her concern, they are attempts to silence her. As a mother, there are few things more painful than watching your child be verbally attacked for speaking respectfully the truth. I have watched this experience chip away at my daughter's confidence. I have seen moments where she just wishes she could just be a kid. And instead, she has been forced to grow up far sooner than she should have been. Because adults are afraid to use their voice and say that this is not right. And she is not alone. Girls across Washington state have faced similar harassments for expressing discomfort, for advocating for fairness. The message they receive is clear: speak up and you will be silenced and punished. At the core of this issue is something very simple. Girls understand their bodies and their boundaries and their sense of safety. Annalie and her friends have known each other since kindergarten. These girls trust each other deeply, and yet even among close friends, they experience natural discomfort when changing clothes in front of one another. That is a normal adolescent development. That is a healthy boundary setting. Despite this, girls are now being told that they must be comfortable changing in front of a girl. As a parent, I have spent my daughter's entire life teaching her to trust her instincts, to recognize discomfort, and to understand that boundaries are not something to apologize for. We teach girls to say no. We teach them that their bodies belong to them. But policies like these teach the opposite. Let me go, Rory. I am asking you to look at how these policies function in practice, not just how they sound on paper, and to consider the real impact they have on the lives of children. Because behind every policy is a child. Behind every decision is a family, and behind every issue is my daughter, Annalie, and countless other female athletes across Washington state who deserve to compete fairly, to be safe, and to speak without fear. Thank you.
I'm here today because my child's privacy, safety, and fairness were compromised, and no one should pretend that this is acceptable. An 18-year-old man was allowed in my daughter's locker room and was also allowed to compete against her on a girls' basketball team. My daughter is a minor. He is a legal adult. Let me be very clear. Men should not be on girls' sports teams, and men should not be in girls' locker rooms. These boundaries exist for a reason: to protect privacy, safety, and fairness for girls. No parent on this day was asked for consent. No warning was given. When concerns were raised, we were told that this is normal and objecting was wrong. When my daughter spoke up to her administration, she was ridiculed and told that her feelings didn't matter and the feelings of the boy on the other team were more important. She felt embarrassed, confused, and unsafe, and she felt that her comfort did not matter. Girls at Tumwater High School are currently being told that if they are welcome to go to another bathroom or changing area, but they cannot be guaranteed that there won't be a boy there either. As a result of this previous incident happening on February 6th, a boy on her opposing team, she chose to sit out and not play. Afterwards, she was investigated because she misgendered this individual. She was investigated by the WIAA and the Tumwater School District. She was also threatened with progressive disciplinary consequences if she were ever to speak out like this again. Her guidance counselor, current teachers, administration, and the teachers union came out publicly against her.
Imagine being a 15-year-old girl walking the hallways of your school feeling like the people who are supposed to be there for you were coming out against you. She has also been called transphobic, a bigot, had death threats against her, has been told that they hope she chokes on a male appendage and die, and told that she was going to hell for speaking out. And just last Friday, as we were driving away from school, someone yelled, "Fuck you, Francis," as she was driving away. And I apologize for using that language publicly because it's disgusting. Locker rooms are intimate spaces. They are separated by sex because biological differences matter, especially for minors. Asking girls to ignore that reality is not inclusion, it's coercion. I'm putting it on record, and I pray to God this never happens, but I have a very valid and real fear of an assault against our girls happening in one of these private spaces designated for girls that are allowing boys and men to enter. God forbid that happens, because if you think I'm pissed off now, you haven't seen anything. On the court, the issue of fairness is just as real. Girls' sports exist as female athletes can compete on an even playing field and without increased risk of injury. Allowing males to compete against teenage girls undermines the very purpose of girls' athletics. This is not about hate. It's not about politics. It's about protecting our children. We can respect all people while still maintaining clear common sense boundaries. Inclusion should never require girls to sacrifice their dignity, safety, or opportunities. I'm almost done. I'm asking you to act on behalf of the girls who cannot vote, who are afraid to speak up, who are being told that their discomfort is the price of participation. There is no greater or no more important job than I have in this world to protect my children. I'm asking you to please protect girls' sports, please protect girls' locker rooms, and please remember that parents expect schools and lawmakers to safeguard our children, not experiment with them. Thank you.
We've heard a lot of people today talking about biological girls. There are no other kind of girls. There's just girls, there's boys. Girls deserve fairness on the field and privacy in the locker room. Our foremothers fought for Title IX on the basis of sex. I am traditionally a Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the basis of sex. I used to be a leftist and all that, thinking that sex mattered, thinking that we were here to protect girls and fight for our rights on the basis of sex. Our foremothers did not fight for identity-based bathrooms. Our foremothers did not fight for identity-based sports. We didn't gather around sports so we could have places to mentally analyze things with our lady brains or psychologically hang out with our identities. Women do not share an identity. Girls do not share an identity. These are for our sex. I also want to mention, this seems like a diversion, but it is on topic. So women had to fight to say that it is not okay for husbands to rape their wives. It used to be okay. That was legally okay until July 1993. That is when marital rape laws were finalized. So women had to fight to say that there is no special category of man who has access to bypass women's consent. We had to fight for that. That is very recent. So right now we are telling our girls that there is a special category of boy who is allowed to bypass their consent. That is what we are teaching them. And we are teaching boys that they are entitled to do so. My phone died. So sorry. So I would like to say, as someone who has a psychology background, access to naked women and girls is not a mental health cure for boys with identity issues. Girls' sports is also not a mental wellness plan for boys who reject their sex. There is no special category of boy who gets to do that. I also want to mention, I was there at the NCAAs with Riley Gaines, Will Thomas. Guess what? There was another trans person there. Isaac Hennig. Not a lot of people speak about this. This is a woman who says that she is a trans man. So trans are not banned from women's sports. They are welcome to play in women's sports if they're a woman. This is not about a trans ban. This is a male ban. This is a sex-based ban on the basis of sex. Thank you so much.
I want to start by addressing something directly. When we defend girls' sports as sex-based, some people hear that as a rejection, especially of boys who are gender nonconforming or experiencing distress around their identity. But that is not what this initiative does, and it's not what we believe. This initiative is not about judging boys. It's not about deciding who they are. It's not about denying their struggles. It's about protecting girls' sports, because girls deserve spaces where their body's safety and opportunities are respected. The conflict arises because we have been told that if a boy claims to be a girl, then girls' boundaries must give way. And when girls' spaces are defended, that reality feels threatening to people who believe sex is negotiable. It is not. But girls' sports were never created to solve questions about boys' identities or medical treatment. They exist because girls need protections in athletic, full stop. As a woman who does not conform to most of the stereotypes of what a woman should be, I want to say very clearly that nonconformity does not require medicalization, and it does not require erasing sex. We can protect all kids, including those gender nonconforming kids, by welcoming those effeminate boys into boys' sports and welcoming those masculine little girls into girls' sports. That is real inclusion. What is not inclusive is telling families, often in moments of fear and confusion, that their son must suppress his natural development in order to belong or participate. Many parents of these boys are deeply distressed. They want their children to play sports, to have friends, to feel normal, and they were told that the medical intervention was a solution. But we now know that pathway is failing children. It harms boys whose bodies are medically altered in ways that do not resolve distress, and instead exposes them to lasting physical harm. And it harms girls who are asked to give their protected spaces up in order to accommodate an approach that medicine itself is stepping away from. This initiative offers a human alternative. Girls' sports remain protected. And we are not telling boys that they have to medicalize their bodies to make policy work. And children are not asked to sacrifice their bodies to resolve adult uncertainty. Caring about girls does not mean abandoning boys. Protecting boundaries does not mean rejecting people. And acknowledging sex does not mean denying dignity. The initiatives reflect those truths. And that's why I support it. And that's why the gays and lesbians of my organization support it. Thank you.
I served on the Linden School Board proudly for the last 4 years. And in my role as a legislative representative, I drafted the resolution supporting these initiatives, which our board unanimously supported. I'm here in support of these initiatives because thousands of families across the state are sending a clear message, and it's being ignored. Public school enrollment in Washington remains well below pre-pandemic levels. Thousands of students have left traditional public schools, and that loss directly impacts funding, staffing, and student services. Even the superintendent of public instruction has acknowledged that Washington State's tax and school funding models are broken. Yet instead of fixing what is broken, he continues to promote increasing taxes to compensate for declining enrollment rather than addressing the policies that are driving families out of public schools. We're also seeing fear manufactured around issues like sports physicals. As a nurse, I can tell you, sports physicals have not changed. They are basic health screenings, and providers do not perform invasive exams without a legitimate medical concern. These scare tactics undermine trust and distract from the real issues of fairness, safety, and parental trust. As a nurse, I was taught that you do not affirm a patient's delusions. You meet them with compassion, but you also gently and clearly orient them back to reality. That is what these initiatives do. And I want to speak briefly to the church. According to the Family Policy Institute of Washington, there are well over 1 million professing Christians in Washington State. If they consistently participated in civic life, the outcomes of our children will look vastly different. Someday our children will ask us 2 questions. Why did you allow this to happen? And why didn't you stop it when you could? Supporting these initiatives is one way to answer those questions with integrity.
You know, I had something prepared that I felt would be poignant, and you would have been bored to death because I'm basically in an echo chamber, of course. But it's like we fell under some sort of ether about 2020. We've all been medicated and sedated. We don't know right from wrong anymore, and we've lost our courage. But now what I see happening, there's a wind of change that's happening that's blowing the ether away, and we're able to breathe oxygen again. We're starting to speak up and not be afraid anymore. What are we afraid of? You know, men, I think I want to apologize to you mostly because I think what we have participated in as women is we have not allowed you to be the men God has called you to be. You are our warriors. You are our leaders. You are the ones that are there to protect us. And for somehow feminists to have claimed this territory, which we are not equipped to do in a way that you were made to do, and I'm sorry. But enough. That wind of change is not only breathing this ether away so that we can inhale truth and exhale action, but the house of cards that they have built on this sand is falling and it's sinking. There's a tsunami of hope and truth that is washing across our land. And that tsunami is destroying what the enemy has tried so voraciously to build up, to steal, kill, and destroy who we are and who we were created to be. And now it's time. Stand up. We women will be behind you, men. We will encourage you, and we will also stand up and speak truth without fear. A man comes into the bathroom where my little girl is. But if a man were to come in the bathroom and my husband saw it, we'll probably end up on the news. But I can encourage you that after hearing everybody here speak today, the war is won. The battle is won. Let's march through and do the next right thing and be there for our daughters. Encourage our husbands, our brothers, and our fathers to be who they've been created to be. And let's just enjoy. But let's make hay while the sun is shining, but let's not stop. Let's not let this ever happen again.
These initiatives will protect girls' sports and restore parental rights. They address real and pressing concerns affecting students, families, and educators across our state. As an educator, I'm responsible not only for academic instruction, but also for fostering fairness, trust, and student well-being. As a parent, I expect public institutions to respect my role in my child's life and to uphold policies that are grounded in equity and common sense. These two initiatives do exactly that. In my role, I've had kids ask me to call them by different names or to use different pronouns when referring to them. I am legally barred from sharing that information with parents. I am a parent, and I know that if my child were going through something similar, I would want to know. I would want to support my child and offer the help only parents know how to give. I would not want their teacher, who sees them one period a day, to make the decision to keep that information from me. Initiative 26001, Restoring Parental Rights, is critical. Parents are not obstacles to education. We are partners in it. Policies that exclude or override parents weaken trust, create conflict, and ultimately harm students. Restoring parental rights affirms that families have a central and respected role in decisions that affect their children's education, health, and development. These initiatives reflect values of fairness, transparency, and accountability. They support students, respect families, and provide educators with clear guidance rather than confusion. I urge you to stand with parents and teachers by supporting these initiatives. Thank you for your serious consideration of these important measures.
My name is Jody Holman, and I'm speaking today as a parent. I'm here to share how Washington's current legal and administrative framework affected my family during a period of crisis involving my daughter, Eleanor. Our daughter ran away from home and has now been missing for more than 2 months. She is 16 years old. She has multiple intersecting mental health needs, but the school and Washington State narrowed their focus to gender alone, sidelining the full scope of what she was experiencing. Without our knowledge or involvement, steps were taken, leading our daughter to believe our home was an unsafe environment for someone experiencing gender dysphoria. What our family experienced did not unfold in a single event. It unfolded across multiple instances, agencies, and decisions, all occurring while our child was experiencing significant vulnerability. At each stage, we acted as engaged parents, seeking coordination and support. At no point were our parental rights terminated or limited by a court finding of unfitness. Despite this, access to information, records, and timely notifications became increasingly restrictive in practice. The most concerning aspect was not overt denial. It was delay. It was fragmentation. It was learning after the fact that records had been disclosed, decisions had been made for us, actions had been taken without parental awareness or participation. Face-to-face interactions did not reveal these issues. Meetings appeared cooperative. Communication seemed professional. The impact only became visible later, once consequences were already in motion and difficult to unwind. Privacy protections were cited, yet applied inconsistently. Timelines expanded during moments when time was critical. Parents were expected to respond to outcomes without having been included in the processes which produced them. As a result, the ability to advocate effectively for our child was compromised, not because of inaction on our part, but because access to information and decision-making was not aligned with parental adjudication. I am sharing this experience to emphasize how laws function in real conditions, not in theory. When systems prioritize procedural insulation over collaboration with parents, families in crisis are placed at greater risk. I am not here to argue ideology. I am here to describe impact. Any legislative framework addressing parents' rights should ensure timely access to records, clear notification of standards, and meaningful parental involvement during active crises. Without those safeguards, families are left reacting rather than protecting. I am asking lawmakers in this building to recognize the harm caused and prevent other families from being torn apart. If the state has information about my daughter's whereabouts, we are asking for assistance and transparency. Help us to reunite with our daughter. Thank you for the opportunity, for the ability to place this in the record.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about why these initiatives are so important to enact in our state. Firstly, women and girls are second-class citizens under the current policies and laws in Washington state, and children and families are being destroyed. Title IX, the federal law meant to protect the sex-based rights of women and girls, is ignored here in Washington. In our state, it is the practice and policy that the best woman for any position will always be a man. Girls are forced to allow males into their locker rooms and change clothes and showers in front of males. Girls should never be denied the right to say no. These policies are rape culture in action. Schools, libraries, clinics, shelters, and organizations all collaborate on first grooming, then hiding children from their parents, all in the name of gender ideology. They keep secrets. Laws and policies in Washington state cast parents as the enemy, and we are witnessing the destruction of young people and their families because of these toxic practices, regulations, and laws. Young people are groomed into gender ideology, told that their parents can't be trusted, and encouraged to run and hide from their families. This Senate Bill 5599 was enacted in 2023. I filed a referendum and tried really hard to stop it. This is the law enabling the state to hide kids from their parents if the kids express a gender identity. Since 5599 became law, there are countless reports of missing kids and distraught parents. Most recently, like 2 minutes ago, we heard about Jody and her daughter, who groomed by her school district and missing since the beginning of December. Gender identity is not real, and no one can change the sex in which they were born. Affirming gender identity is abuse. It destroys families and destroys the physical and mental health of children, teens, and young adults. Not affirming your child's fictional gender identity is not abuse. No
30 seconds.
No school, library, shelter, or any other organization should be permitted to keep secrets from parents. And thank you. That's why these bills are so, or these initiatives are so important. Thank you.
We've got chapters in 7 counties across the state, and we work collaboratively on a legislation group where we track bills and we encourage voter engagement, and we serve as a resource for legislators. We now have a legislative scorecard too, so that you know how things are going. There's a lot of stuff going on with parental rights. We've been working on this for 5 years since we were founded. And some districts now don't even allow parents to opt their children out of content that they find objectionable or that violates their values and religious beliefs. We're seeing children forced to endure indoctrination over academics, and it's often hidden behind feel-good but deceptive titles like social emotional learning and ethnic studies and restorative justice. Our kids are subjected to experiments like competency-based learning, which has no record of academic success, but relies on teacher and student reports of satisfaction, and it allows no inputs from parents. Students' days are filled with ed tech tools, sometimes as much as 5 hours a day spent on screens, but there is no record that it improves academics. But our children are subjected to massive and invasive data collection. They're being advertised to during the school day. This is impacting their attention span and their relationships. We're now considering, or legislature's now considering, expanding school-based health clinics, which undermine parental authority and divert resources from reading, math, and formal education. Even the authors of this program have called for more research. Parental rights do not come from the government, and they cannot take them away. We do not co-parent with the government.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
There is no dispute that public school enrollment is in decline. Low birth rates are often cited, but the reality is that a significant portion of that decline is because families are leaving. When families lose trust, they protest with their feet. Key provisions in the parental rights law were gutted last year, as you noted in your opening, further eroding that trust. What was once a partnership between schools and families has shifted toward policies that treat parents as adversaries in their own children's lives. Schools exist to educate children, not to replace the parent-child relationship. Yet current policies often promote secrecy from parents under the guise of protecting student privacy. No matter how well-intentioned, this is harming the very children that schools claim to be protecting. Every major study on child well-being shows that children are safest and healthiest when parents are informed, involved, and guiding their children's upbringing, including their education. Federal law is also clear on this, making Washington state an outlier. FERPA was designed to protect student records from the public, not from parents. Schools do not have the authority to substitute their judgment for that of parents. No ideological or policy exception exists in this law. In other words, there are no carve-outs for gender identity or any other school district preferences on ideology. Schools also cannot avoid transparency with parents by redefining what a record is, changing what constitutes medical care,
or invoking student privacy to deny parent access. It is also ethically wrong to place educators in the position of deciding what information a parent is and is not entitled to, which may require them to mislead families and even lie. This initiative does not change mandatory reporting requirements or welfare protections for children. It simply ensures that parents receive transparency by default rather than presuming they are a risk. This is not, as we've been told, a culture war issue, nor is it political. All parents, regardless of political leanings, want transparency from schools about their own children. They also want the right to receive full curriculum, opt out of measures, education records, and the authority to decide what is in the best interest of their own unique child. I urge your support and thank you for your time.
I'm the mother of 10 children, and I have gotten involved and fighting in politics because of those 10 children. And I've seen many examples of school overreach over the years. But today I want to focus on one incident that people are not thinking about because it involved my child when he was only in 3rd grade. My son was removed from class and placed into counseling sessions without my knowledge or permission. Those sessions continued for 6 weeks before I was ever informed. I was made aware of it, not through a phone call, not through an email or written notice, but I learned about it during a routine child-led student-parent conference. These conferences happen bi-yearly with a parent, and my son was sitting right there in the room. I didn't want to disrespect the parents or the teachers or the school, but I was very, very angry. To this day, I still have not been able to get clear answers as to why they felt it was necessary to remove my child from class, why outside services were brought in, or who was providing that counseling. As a parent, I find that deeply troubling. Parents are not optional participants in their children's lives. We are the primary caregivers. We are legally responsible for our children's safety, medical care, emotional well-being, and long-term development. I was excluded from decisions about my own child at an age where he was especially vulnerable and unable to advocate for himself. He began wetting the bed, not wanting to go to school, really adverse behavior at home, and I had no idea why. If a child is struggling, the answer is not secrecy. Secrets cannot be kept from parents. If a child's welfare is truly the top priority, transparency matters. Trust matters, and partnership between schools and families matter. This initiative restores a simple and reasonable expectation that parents are informed, involved, and respected when decisions are made about their children. It does not prevent schools from supporting students. It ensures that support happens with parents, not around them.
Yeah, just a few seconds, please.
Thank you. Parents are not the problem. We are the partners, and I ask your support, as you have already given over the years, to stand for transparency, accountability, and the fundamental rights of families. Thank you for your consideration.
I want to say that I'm here as a parent of Washington State, but I'm also here to share a piece of history that I lived when parents were pushed out of this children's education. I lived in the Cultural Revolution in China, and there was no parental involvement, none. And authority always believed that they knew everything best for the children, and the parent is only involved when there is non-compliant involved. I had an incident that happened when the teacher asked me to share something that was not honest, and she said if I didn't do it, I was going to bring my parents in, and I was going to compromise my grade, compromise my opportunity to become the young member of the Communist Party, which was considered a very honorable thing at the time. And so my father had to come to attend this meeting with the principal, and I was ultimately made into obedient with the situation. When we got home, my dad told me that I will make sure this will never happen again. And the biggest and the most grateful parent support that he gave me was that a few years later, we immigrated here in America, and he gave up everything he had, including his prominent medical professional title. And he came here, and then he reminded me of what happened a few years ago at the school. And he said, over here, you are in an environment where you have freedom to speak, freedom to think, and you have endless opportunities to be who you can be. And this is the best that I can do for you as my child. And so that still is the most grateful thing I have for my father. So that experience leads me here in front of you, because now I'm a parent in America, and I'm very grateful for the freedom this country offers. But what is alarming to me is that there are signs of the school systems here that is emerging to the experience I lived. So our parents are now struggling to stay informed in school, and transparency is very much reduced. And the involvement of parents are considered interference rather than supportive. And history always teaches us something important. When a system begins to separate children from their parents, even very gradually, very non-noticeable, the consequences is very serious. As you know. Oh, really? Shoot. Okay. Okay. Children, they lose their security when they don't have the family support and parental guidance. So what's happening here and what happened in China, it's not it's not sudden, it's very accumulative. I want everybody to be aware of the signs that we experience here. So let me fast forward. So from this panel, I would like to advocate that as a parent, I want to have transparency, communication, and mutual respect. And most of all, I want to ensure that the system I grew in never repeat here. Thank you, please. I urge you to vote pro.
School districts across Washington state are currently creating and databasing detailed mental health records about students, yet parents are not informed that these records exist. The Seattle Times reported that the school-administered health assessment called Check Yourself collects, quote, some of the most sensitive information in kids' lives, and taking it creates a student health record. At a recent state conference, it was described as part of a new statewide initiative. So parents may be unaware that their 6th, 7th, or 8th grader is asked to enter highly personal information, including paragraphs typed into empty text boxes about home life, who they have a crush on and are sexually attracted to, if a family member has been to jail, if they've cut or burned themselves, contemplated suicide, or vomited to lose weight, if they are questioning their gender, identify as non-binary or transgender, attend religious services, are unhappy with their body, and more, all of which is saved into that student's record. This is not an anonymous survey. This is not the Washington Health Youth Survey. This is something different. And it's in many schools and to go statewide. This program was presented at medical conferences as a, quote, child-friendly, trauma-informed assessment. Here's how it works. An 11-year-old 6th grader completes the assessment during math class, one of 67,000 Washington students who have already done so. Her scores are calculated, she's triaged, then her record plus her scores are transmitted to a centralized database. Approximately half the students are flagged and attend private intervention sessions with a school employee, where session details are added to the student's record for tracking. Washington parents are not notified this record exists, however, schools retain full access and can view and add to it at any time. Among 12-year-olds who express discomfort with this test, public Check Yourself data sets contain pages full of repeated comments, including, these are real comments they typed in, I hated this and never want to do this again. It's a mood ruiner. Why do I have to answer these questions? Why do you need to know who I like? It makes me feel useless, like I'm in a mental hospital. Public records show multiple districts reported concerns including the Bellevue Schools director, who wrote, "I was unable to find any studies on the validity and reliability of Check Yourself as a screener for middle school students." During a meeting with OSPI, parents were told, I was in that meeting, the mental health interventionists, quote, "do not need mental health training. We have lay people doing interventions constantly." The training guide instructs interventionists to reflect after private sessions with these students, quote, where do I feel myself wanting to add my own thoughts or opinions about what might be best for them? Was there a moment I felt like an expert in their life? Parents should have the same visibility into their child's health records as schools. And this initiative will restore parents' rights, ensuring access to these records, and notice to parents that such records even exist about their child and will be available for them to review. Thank you.